Hi, this is Rick Brandenburg for North Carolina State University and Turf Bugs and Rock and Roll. As I indicated last week, I want to talk about a couple of topics that I've got a lot of questions on the last few weeks. And the one we're going to address today is earthworm control. Now, earthworms have become an increasing problem in turf settings of all types, from home lawns to golf courses to sports turf and everything else. And one of the reasons that's usually offered to explain this is simply that we're using insecticides and pesticides in general that are much less toxic than the products we've used in the past. And as a result, earthworms are taking advantage of an environment that has a lot of moisture and a lot of organic matter, and their populations are increasing. And I think there's probably a lot behind the fact that we're using safer insecticides and pesticides in general that have allowed the populations to build. However, we're seeing earthworm populations build in many different types of systems, and for some people they're viewing this as a real problem. If you talk to a lot of forest ecologists, they're seeing changes in the forest floor ecology because many of the earthworms are decomposers and they're breaking down a lot of the leaf litter in a manner that's not consistent with what we've observed in recent decades. So there is a lot of discussion, a lot of scientific debate over earthworms and their role in the whole system, particularly in light of the fact that many of the species that we have, particularly in the U.S., are not native species. They're exotic species that are introduced. So the bottom line is earthworms are a problem. A number of people have been doing a lot of work on them. Chris Williamson at University of Wisconsin has done work with using an abrasive top dressing material and shown some reduction. He's done work with using heavier top dressing and shown on putting surfaces that he can reduce the earthworm casting somewhat. But a lot of the work that really came about just a few years ago was work by Dan Potter at Kentucky, where he used an organic fertilizer called Early Bird. And this product contains a tea seed meal, and in that tea seed meal is a component called saponins. Now, saponins have been used, or the products that contain saponins have been used for many, many years in various parts of the world, particularly in Asia, to control earthworms and even to kill fish in ponds. And I first started working with actual tea seed powder maybe 15 or more years ago when I was in Asia and saw how effective it was. And then I got some products shipped to the U.S. and was able to work with it and was very impressed with how it could suppress earthworm populations very, very quickly. So I was familiar with it, and then the work with Ocean Organics and the Early Bird product was done, and we actually had a viable product on the market that's an organic fertilizer that can work very well. So a lot of people have been using this the last few years, and they've been using it very successfully in areas where the earthworm populations just get simply so high that you can't tolerate the amount of castings you get. Now, a word of caution that I'll throw out. Again, I mentioned to you that I worked with this tea seed powder many, many years ago, and then really didn't see a way to get it to the States, so we didn't try to pursue it a whole lot. But in talking to a number of people in Asia, they tell me that after they use these tea seed powders for several years, they notice a real drop in effectiveness. Now, I don't know of any studies right now in the States that show after you use tea seed powder for 3 or 4 years that it no longer works as well. But I have every reason to believe the folks I talk to from Asia that they know what they're talking about. So I guess I throw that out as a little bit of word of warning, is that we need to use this product with a great deal of caution. Number one, at high doses it is toxic to fish. But number two, if it has a short life as far as use in the field, we want to make sure we use it with discretion and use it only when absolutely necessary for a lot of reasons, but included in those reasons are the fact that we want the product to last a long time. Another product that some people use is the fungicide thiophanate methyl, which also has a suppressant effect on earthworms, not near as much as the Early Bird fertilizer. But if you're having issues with earthworms, perhaps the idea of rotating with this thiophanate methyl fungicide, rotating that with use of the Early Bird fertilizer will extend the life of that. So anyway, those are my comments right now. Again, it's a good product. Use it with discretion. Use it only when necessary, and sometimes it can bail you out of a tough situation when you just have more earthworms and you know what to deal with. Hope that helps. We'll look forward to talking with you again soon. Thanks.